Yes, so we have Chris Tatham with us here today with ETC. They presented actually a report to EMBARK a few months back, and we've been working to get scheduled so we could have Chris here to provide a presentation on customer satisfaction report. I know he was in the back, and I'll give him just a second to come up this way. We also have our quarterly investment report that is in the packet. We don't have a presentation on that item, but just wanted you to know that we have that information in there. We provide quarterly. The city treasurer's office manages all these funds, so we do have that report in your packets. We're glad to take any questions on this. Suzanne Wickenkamp, Assistant Director for EMBARK, is going to provide the introduction here on this study.
Well, good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Suzanne Wickenkamp, and I'm one of the Assistant Directors of the Public Transportation and Parking Department, EMBARK. And I'm pleased to be able to provide some opening remarks to our annual customer survey results. So as you know, annually EMBARK conducts a customer survey, and this just helps us understand a little bit better about the areas that our customers are meeting their expectations, as well as areas that we need to focus on improving. So these survey results also inform us about our customers' needs and, what's important to our customers in terms of service improvements that they'd like to see. That helps us allocate our resources to service demands and meet those expectations. So this all is in keeping with our aspirational goal, our vision to be world-class transportation and parking services for our customers. So with that, we have Chris Tatham here of ETC Institute, and I'll pass this over to him for sharing the survey results, but I just wanted to also mention that this survey was just conducted this past fall of 2021. So I'll hand it over to you, Chris. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, it's great to be with you today. I've been working for the city for, I think, pushing on 20 years now, so I realize how much older I'm getting every time I come back. But Michael's going to help me out today. I'm just going to give you a highlight of the survey that we did last fall. It's kind of the end. I know COVID's still going on, but this survey was kind of done at the tail end when the world was still kind of shut down and starting to open up. So it'll probably be a good baseline moving forward. And has a lot of great information about how you really got through that difficult period of time. So if you're not familiar with the ETC Institute, we're actually based in Kansas City. We have offices all over the United States and even globally today. Many of you may know us because we do an annual survey, what residents think about the quality of city services, but we've also been doing work now with EMBARK for several years, and we are actually the primary or probably the leading firm when it comes to doing transit market survey research for everyone from systems in Los Angeles to Miami to Rhode Island across the country. So we've actually seen what's been happening the last couple of years during COVID, so I'm going to share some of those insights today. I'm going to just summarize today by going through the 4 major topics on the survey. We looked at what the characteristics, who's using transit, took a look at the overall satisfaction with the bus and streetcar system, opportunities that you can do better, and then just a few other issues that I'm going to highlight. So I'm going to try to get through that quickly, and if you have questions at the end, I'll be happy to answer them. So just as far as the overall purpose and methodology, it's similar to surveys that we've done in previous years. The main purpose was to better understand what people are doing, who's using it, what their perceptions are of the systems, and how to make the systems better. It's really to give you an ongoing performance measurement tool so you can really make sure that you're meeting the expectations of your riders. Remember, this is a rider survey. It's not a non-rider survey. Every couple of years, we also ask the community in general about transit purposes and what they think about the overall system, but this is a survey of your current customers. With that, this survey was administered, as I said, toward the end of the fall. We had 1,279 riders surveyed on the buses, and another 252 were surveyed on the streetcar. So both of these are relatively large samples. The overall results are precise, within about 2.5% at the 95% level of confidence. So it means we get the same results within 2.5%, 95 times out of 100 if we did the survey 100 times. Here's some of the interesting findings. You may wonder, well, who's using the system? And there are some real differences between folks who are using your bus system and the streetcar. So this first chart just shows the ages of people who are using it. I've included the Norman resorts in orange, but I know you'll probably be more interested in the Oklahoma City streetcar, which is in the dark blue, and then the bus system, which is in the lighter blue. And you'll notice that streetcar users tend to be under 30. The higher percentage of folks are under 30 than the other groups. And you can see that you have a lot of folks between 30 and 61 using it, very similar to what many of the demographics are in the community, which is great. Next chart just shows people's race, and what you'll notice is the streetcar, with the exception of Hispanics, pretty much mirrors the distribution of the actual city's racial population. If you look, for example, the streetcars in the dark blue, and then you'll see the census for Oklahoma City is in the middle bar in the gray, and you'll see when it comes to white, it's 58-53, black 16-14, Hispanic 11-20, and that's where we have slightly lower ridership. But for the most part, the streetcar seems to be getting a good cross-section of people citywide. You'll see, however, when it comes to other races, the bus, you see a higher percentage of blacks are using that compared to what we see in the actual population. Next chart just shows the incomes of folks who are using the system. What I found really interesting is that when it comes to the Oklahoma City bus, you'll see that only 2.7% of bus users earn over $50,000 a year of their annual household. So without this service, a lot of them would not be able to get to work, get to school, get to places that they need to go. Whereas when you look at the streetcar, it's actually more than 50,000, which is consistent with the actual census estimates for the median income for the region, which is 56,456. So again, the streetcar tends to be reflecting more the cross-section of the region, whereas the bus tends to be a more specialized, somewhat lower income group that is using it. However, if you look at the next chart, which shows the reasons people are using it, I think this is one of the reasons economically it's so important. You'll see that the number one reason for bus riders in Oklahoma City is to get to and from work. So these folks are going to work, they need it, and without it, you wouldn't be able to get a significant number of people in the region to work. You can see the social dining entertainment is really at the streetcar level. 3 out of 4 people are indicating that's the reason they're using it. And you can see down in Norman, it tends to be more university related. But clearly the data shows that this is a critical system because many of your riders would not be able to get to and from work if you didn't have the bus system in place. And the other thing that we asked is a majority of people who use both services are using it on a daily basis. You can see for the Oklahoma City bus, it's a high usage. Over 50% of the people are reporting it using it daily. And again, that's consistent with people going to and from work. Whereas the streetcar, you can see the majority of people are using it less than once a month. So I think a couple other things that we found here is just the frequency of streetcar usage is low, because a lot of people are coming from other areas to downtown. But one of the funny things that we found is of the people who live downtown, 51% use the streetcar at least 3 to 4 times a week. So of the people who are living here, it's getting relatively high usage. So it may look lower, but it's actually being used quite a bit by the people in the downtown area. So I think that's all the overview. A lot of good information just about who's riding it. And it's been pretty consistent over the years, but you really have 2 different markets that are being served. Streetcar is serving more the average resident citywide, whereas the bus is serving lower income folks who really need to get to and from work, and it's their primary means of doing that. Second thing that we took a look at is just overall satisfaction. And when I talked to you last year and rewarded that was just the beginning of COVID. You then went through COVID and expected these results to go down significantly. In fact, most of the clients that we do satisfaction surveys like this saw significant drops. There are challenges with bus drivers, there are challenges with on-time performers. You have a lot to celebrate as a city because EMBARK really delivered great customer service during this past year, and it was a really difficult period. You'll see, just to start off, these charts here just show satisfaction with the Oklahoma City bus service. You can see they were relatively high when I presented to you last year. They stayed high. In fact, only 2 areas got better and just 2 areas got significantly worse. You can see information at bus stops and perception and accessibility of bus stops both improved. Frequency of service and courtesy of drivers both decreased. But all in all, you continue to get very, very high ratings. More interestingly, though, is your streetcar ratings. It was brand new a couple years ago. Normally what happens is a new system opens up, in your first year or 2 you get your best ratings. You're continuing to see improvements in overall satisfaction ratings among streetcar, which suggests that it's not just about the condition of the vehicles being new or the service being novel. People actually are being treated and getting to and where they need to go in a very, basically in a way that meets their expectations. You'll notice of all the areas that were assessed, none had significant decreases from 2020 to 2021. In addition, several improved, one of which was the ease of using your ticket kiosks. They were up 10%, and that was a concern that we had identified previously, so the city and EMBARK responded well to that. The ease of your mobile fare app was up, ease of getting information, and courtesy of fare inspectors all improved. So in a period when expectations were really challenging during COVID, the streetcar saw some significant improvements, and so really a lot to be commended for. Next thing just shows how you stack up, and this is perhaps some of the best findings, is what we didn't have 3 years ago are good national benchmarking data. We're now doing so many transit surveys, we've actually developed comparisons. So as with your city survey, you can now see how does the transit system stack up. And what you'll see on here, the dark blue shows the results for the streetcar, the lighter blue is the bus service, you can see Norman, and then the national average. And you'll notice that in pretty much every single category that was assessed, you're significantly above the national average. You might just hold out a couple things like the cleanliness of your bus shelters and platforms. You can see at 98% for the streetcar, 65% for the bus. I won't go through all of these, but really you've got a great system. Your riders are happy. You're doing generally better at meeting expectations than other communities. The one thing you will notice, though, is that the courtesy of drivers, which is one area that decreased slightly compared to last year, it was down a little over 5 percentage points. You are actually slightly trailing the national average there. So I've identified that as an opportunity for improvement, and I know EMBARK's already been working on it because they've had this a little longer than you have. So as far as the next chart, this just shows the overall satisfaction, and this is the one where if you were to have a party or celebration, this is it. At the end of the day, overall, how satisfied are folks with your system? You see the national average, 58% of most bus riders and most systems say they're satisfied with the overall quality of that system. For the streetcar, it's 97%. Which is 39% above the national average, and for your bus system, it's 78%, which is 20% above the national average. So when it comes to satisfaction of your riders and how they think you're meeting their expectations, you're doing a great job. There's better opportunities to do even better, but comparatively, you're doing very, very good. As far as those opportunities to do better, which is the third topic I want to share with you, is we asked people what they thought the attributes that were most important to them when they used the bus, and then separately the streetcar. And you'll see making sure they're on time, they're accessible, service frequency, courtesy of drivers, and cleanliness are the top issues. And it makes a lot of sense having the buses on time when people are using them to get to and from work. If the buses can't be relied upon, it's going to be difficult to have a reliable or get to your job reliably. The next chart actually takes the analytics into place, and this is the same thing that we've done with you for the city survey, as we look at how important each of the attributes are, and then we ask people how satisfied we are to identify some opportunities for improvement. And you'll see buses arriving on time is at the top of the list, but what I like to do is focus in sometime on what are the lower hanging, less costly fruit that could have a big impact. So sure, you can invest billions of dollars and make the system even better, which would be great, but there are some little things that you can probably do. If you take a look at the medium priorities, courtesy of drivers, cleanliness of bus shelters, and cleanliness of buses are all in that top tier as opportunities for improvement. Your satisfaction's already very high, but I think additional efforts in those areas would help you see overall satisfaction increase over the next year or two as well. So the next thing is the streetcar services, and you can see having them be on time, clean, and frequent service are at the top of the list as far as the priorities for taking care of the streetcar. When we then did the same analytics with the streetcar, which is on the next chart, you'll notice that the items were similar, frequency of service, streetcar arriving on time, but you see cleanliness, once again, within that top tier. So I'm not saying that that will do everything for you, but it is an area over the next year that if you focus on is likely to see or help your overall satisfaction improve. You still want to focus on those bigger picture areas that are more costly, like the frequency of service and where the service coverage is, because that's what's going to be needed to help the system grow and attract more riders. But to make your current customers happy, continuing to make sure that they feel safe, and a lot of that comes from being cleaned and being cared for. And as I hopefully understand that there's two different markets out there. One market is already using your system. So it, for the most part, goes where they need it to go. That's why they use it to go into work. There's another market who might use it if you had expanded service, but it would still need to have very similar characteristics that you see here. So a few other things just to share with you today before I wrap up. One of the things is you're rolling out of the EMBARK, OKC.com You've done a great job rolling that out. You can see that it's the #1 tool that's being used by riders, and it's up significantly. If you look where it was in just 2020, you had 29% of riders using it. Almost half are using it now, and at that rate of growth, when this survey was done late last fall, it's probably over 50% by now. Also, the transit app usage is up significantly. 235 Ride has dropped, and you can see the Move It app. So that shift to having people use reliable apps is definitely the way that people want to go, and you're responding very, very well to that. Second thing to take a look at is nearly half of OKC bus users are making multiple transfers. And that's not new. You have a transit center, but that does create some burden. But with the transit center, having that one single transfer is ideal. And if you'll notice that with this, you still have over 30% of folks who are making two or more, you have over, it's 45% that are making two or more transfers. So again, that burden to the rider is a barrier to get people who aren't currently using the system to decide to use the system. Next thing is the percentage of folks who park. One of the things that we ask people is if they drove or rode with others, where did they park? And you'll notice that 6 in 10 of the streetcar users actually park a car. So the access to streetcars, people are driving into downtown and then parking and then using it. And you can see it was pretty mixed about where they parked on the street, garages, or in private parking garages. But you do have 6 in 10 people are coming down who are using it while they're down here and then return back to their homes and other places. And the last question I'm going to share with you is just if the streetcar could be extended to other areas, which areas would you like to see it extended to? And you can see the overall ranking of the list hasn't changed a lot. You'll see Plaza District fell a little bit from last year. It was at 23 to 21% this year. Where Capitol Hill, you can see was a little higher last year and fell. Plaza District increased a little bit, and you see Uptown is still at the top of the list compared to where it was in 2020. So the overall ranking is very, very similar. So with that, I'll summarize, and then if you have questions, be happy to answer them. Today is a celebration. I hope it is. Maybe it was last fall when you originally got the results, but you went through COVID better than probably any other transit agency that we work with, just being candid with you. We've seen most transit agencies significant decreases in satisfaction ratings from pre-COVID to when this survey was done in the middle of COVID. Things are starting to get better now, but there were great challenges, and you responded to that really well. You should take great pride in the fact that overall streetcar satisfaction is 39% above the national average, which we now have good measures for that, and your bus service is rated 20% above the national average. But that's with your current riders, and I think that's really one of the things you have to talk about is your current riders are very happy with what you have, but if you want to attract more or improve it, frequency of service, access, and those other issues are going to be important. In addition, you can think that things stayed the same or improved in most areas, which I already highlighted. And finally, take a look at some of those low-hanging fruit, the cleanliness issues, the courtesy of drivers. I think those are some short, immediate responses that will help improve overall satisfaction with your customers, but at the same time, frequency of service, areas of service, and things like that will also be important to continue meeting the growing needs of the community. So with that, Mayor, I don't know if there's any questions, but I'd certainly be able to answer them if there are.
Any questions, Colin?
Thanks, Krish. We really appreciate the partnership and the work that you all do.
Great. I'll see you in a couple months with the resident survey results.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much.